Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the Indiana State Dynasty here on NCAA Basketball 10, and we are off to a hot start. Last episode, we kicked off our basketball season, our first season in this series, and even though we did end up taking an early loss to those boys out in Louisville, we have ever since gone on not only a 5-game winning streak, but we have also won the Anaheim Classic. So a good springboard here, getting our season started. But now we get into the month of December, and it starts to turn into a little bit of a tune-up. This is the last full month that we are going to have until we get into conference action, and that conference slate is going to be real interesting. That's the meat of our season, because the Missouri Valley has long been considered a one-bid league. So we got to do great in conference play, but we can get a springboard for that by playing well in this episode. So hope you guys are excited for this one. I'm certainly am. If you are as well, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand new. And with that being said, let's check out some of these games that we have here in the month of December. So we get things started here in this episode as we get a chance to take on the James Madison Dukes. And at first, James Madison did give us a tough time, but man, you got to give credit where credit is due. We came out and played incredibly hard against James Madison. James Madison had a nice season in real life. Don't know how good they are in this particular game back in the day. They were part of, I believe it was the Colonial Athletic Association when this game first came out. But hey, good win for us either way. We made 11 threes successfully. Also out-rebounded and out-assisted the other guys. And we were led by Durant, who did end up coming out with 24 points. He led all scorers for us in this particular game. But the game that I am really excited about hopping into is this next game that happens to fall on our schedule. Iowa State is coming into town, and how we managed to get Iowa State to come over and play us, well, that's a discussion for another time. But I'm really curious to see how this game turns out, because we actually have a similar overall to Iowa State. We just don't have as big of a brand as our friends down in Ames, Iowa. But not only are we similarly ranked teams, but also we have completely different tempos. I, for one, love to push the ball down the court. I like to play in that up-tempo kind of game. Iowa State, on the other hand, is more of that half-court type of team. So really curious to see how things shake out, and if we can get a win against Iowa State, that would be a huge boost for our resume. Could serve as insurance in the event that, hey, we actually are going to go ahead and make sure that we get into the NCAA tournament, even if we don't win our conference. So a big game for us. Let's see if we can come out and win it. Alright, boys, so we got ourselves out here, man, in Terre Haute, Indiana. How we managed to get Iowa State to come to our building, I don't know, but I am absolutely here for it. This Terre Haute Hoosier crowd is definitely excited to have Iowa State. While not ranked yet, this is a 6-1 team from the Power 6, so I'm definitely excited about what our Indiana State Sycamores can do in this particular game. And with that being said, let's not waste any more time and let's jump right into it. Our battle against the Iowa State Cyclones, and we're gonna give them a little bit of a hurricane special. Durant from the corner, free, no good. And that means that we will have to wait a little bit longer before those first points of the game will be scored. And they will be scored, seems like, by Iowa State as they drive to the inside, and Allison Durant is going to be called for his first foul. Will eventually lead to a couple of free throws, and the Cyclones get off to a good start, just attacking us on the inside. Ken Harris is also called for a personal foul, as well as Iowa State does make both of those free throws as well. And it seems very clear we're going to need a little bit of a spark as John Phillips gets bullied inside. We give up the offensive rebound. And it's an 8-1 lead already for Iowa State. Want to go ahead and beat this press real quick. And we're going to take it to the sideline where we call a timeout. Need a little bit of a breather to get our guys re-locked in. Because this Iowa State team, as we found out, they are absolutely no joke. As they'll hit it inside, try to get it to their big man. And Chris Gentry is going to get called for the foul as well. Luckily, their center isn't as proficient from the free throw line. So that does mean that Iowa State is going to be able to get one of two free throws as we continue to struggle through this ball game. But we're going to be able to draw the steal with the senior Scott Smalls, who goes coast to coast. And maybe that's the spark that we finally need. Let's see if we can get ourselves back into this game as they decide not to dump it inside. They did have the mismatch and they missed it. Trying to hit this post fadeaway, and how does that go down? Kennard is just on absolute demon time right now. They are certainly not messing around. 13-5 is your score for against this Iowa State squad as we dump it inside to Chris Gentry. And he'll draw the foul on Justin Daniels, who does make one of two free throws. As we'll keep moving this ball around, getting out to John Phillips, over to Alistar Varant, back over to Phillips, and just looking for someone to make a cut across court. Eventually, we settle for the Scott Smalls free, and it goes down. Iowa State only now up by 5 points. 5-point game here in the Holman Center as they try to go back inside as Chris Gentry does end up getting the block, but they'll eventually get free throws after that. Going to be a 1-point game. And I figured that was going to be our big issue. Iowa State just want to be a little bit more aggressive on the inside. And not only has it gotten Chris Gentry in the foul trouble, John Phillips is also in that foul trouble as well. So Justin Credible and Brett Buckner, one of the few non-customs on this team, they're really gonna have to work for it. As speaking of Justin Credible, there is our big man going in on the inside. And we've got this a much closer game now all of a sudden. Can Indiana State tie this game up for the first time in a hot minute? Well, we're gonna need a little bit of work to do exactly that. 30-25 is your score as they dump it back inside. Can we get the block? No! No block as Daniel is able to get that tough layup to go. But with less than 4 minutes left, Alistar Varant is going to take it coast to coast. And the Holman Center comes back alive indeed. 5-point game. Buckner trying to get a stop on defense, and he forces the miss, but has a foul drawn on him. That is his very first one. So trying to make it a 5-point game again as we try to get it to the outside. That's no good. And now here comes the Cyclones. Trying to go coast to coast. Buckner gives up. Was trying to be a little bit too aggressive there in the passing lanes. And we paid for it ruthlessly. But Ken Harris will help us settle in a little bit more. Hits the mid-ranger danger. But needless to say, we have a very tightly contested first half. While we gave it the old college try, Iowa State does have the early advantage. Gonna be up by 7 here going into the half. We just got to be more efficient on the offensive end. Shooting at 36% from the field. We simply cannot have that. We must be better in transition. So here we go, jumping into the second half of action now, trying to will this comeback to happen as we got a mid-ranger danger on the outside, and that is good. So Iowa State picking right back up where they left off, and they were not going to quit. Bowie at least forced a miss that time. Varant in transition, bang! And the Indiana State Sycamores are right back in it. Feels good to have our starting big men back out there. Phillips and Gentry both having long hiatuses on the bench because of foul trouble. Down by 9. We're going to certainly need them. As you see how we do when we trail at the half, We haven't lost too many games yet this season, but when we have trailed at the half, we have not been able to come back. 0-1 thus far on the season, as Gentry gets called for another foul. That's his third. So in a little bit of foul trouble, he has to play smart. He can't afford to pick up a fourth here this early in the second half, and Phillips goes coast to coast. Is able to hit the and one as well, and that cuts his lead back into single digits. And you know, if we want to come back and win this thing, we gotta stroke it from deep. Pause. 6-point game now as Smalls tries to go inside, tries to hit the little bunny shot, but it's no good. Phillips wants to attack, finds Varant over to Gentry and attacks inside, and is gonna get the and one. Makes the free throw as well. Back to a 3-point game. Gentry looking to get the rebound, and his teammate gets it. Phillips looking to attack coast to coast, and he does! Lays it in with the soft touch, and it's just a 1-point game. The Holman Center coming alive right now. Let's see if we can take the lead here on this possession. We get the steal, pushing it up to Gentry. Bang! 1-point lead for the Indiana State Sycamores. And for 13 minutes left in the game, we finally have ourselves a lead. And we will still hold on to this lead. We get the make, trying to push down court. Smalls, bang! 3-pointer for Scott Smalls. He's an absolute sniper. And our biggest lead of the day, a 4-point game. And we get the rebound as well. Just incredible. Pushes it up. Scott Smalls. We're going to push it in to John Phillips. Doesn't get the and one, but forces a 4th personal foul on Phillips. So now some Iowa State Sycamore players getting in some foul trouble here as we force yet another miss. The post game not as effective here in the second half, but Phillips sure is though. This is how we thrive, getting stops on defense and then pushing quickly in transition. Varant for free, another one. We are red hot here in this second half. Oh my word. There's Gentry with another mid-ranger. Danger. And look at this lead that we pushed up to. Remember when we were down by double digits? Couldn't be me. Simply could not be me. We can make this lead even bigger. Phillips inside, pushes it up to Gentry, and he'll draw the foul. The foul does end up getting drawn. It's a 13-point game once again. Trying to push it out. It's missed. Credible with the rebound. Varant wanted to take the transition free, and that's good. All of a sudden, largest lead in the entire game does not belong to Iowa State. It belongs to your Sycamores, and JoJo Thompson spreads it out even further. Another big free for JoJo Thompson off the bench this time. And finally, you would think Iowa State would stop the bleeding. That bleeding is not stopping anytime soon, as we are just feeling it today. Just absolutely feeling ourselves. A 20-point game, as it's now 75-54. Trying to push inside, trying to bust it in, and it's no good. But Scott Smalls is called for the foul, though. So he'll make both free throws, but the Cyclones still getting a shock of the century right now, as they are just absolutely bewildered. How are they going to come back from this deficit with 5 minutes left to play in the game? And we're not slowing down ourselves. Harris swings it out to Varant, back inside to Gentry. And that's how you know, just when everything's going your way, you get shots like that to go. Usually I'm not a fan of that shot by Gentry, but you know what? Sometimes you're just feeling it. And even if we don't make it, you know, we're getting a bunch of free throw opportunities as well. And needless to say, your Indiana State Sycamores is going to win out here. Final score in this one, you got a 79-59 victory. That's coming out and standing on business. Wow, we were off, but so So listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys. They definitely had us in that first half. Iowa State, they had us on the ropes. Shoot, I even had to call a couple of timeouts. But in that second half though, 55 points in the second half. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Mainly from our starters, of course. I mean, every single one of our starters did end up being in double figures. Chris Gentry, he comes down and has 14 points in the game. John Phillips got 19. Alistair Varant, 15 points. Scott Smalls, who is our leading scorer, he ends up with 20. And then our point guard, Ken Harris, ends up with 10 points. And he was also able to chip in with 4 assists as well. So, good games all around. Absolutely love to see all of that. We did get a little bit more contributions from our bench as well, which was something that I was concerned about when we were at that Anaheim Classic. JoJo Thompson came off the bench, had 5 points off 2 for 5 shooting. Just incredible. Our center, our only center on the roster, made both of his shots. He had 4 points in the game. No other bench points though, but we don't play a bunch of our guys at the same time. Still better than last game, but there is certainly some things that, I also want to clean up. We did a great job as well shooting the free ball. Alistair Varant was 3 for 4. Scott Smalls was 5 for 10. Ken Harris was 2 for 6. And then JoJo Thompson did end up being 1 for 3. John Phillips had double-digit rebounds as well. And we were able to snatch a couple of steals and a couple of blocks in there as well. Alistair Varant with a block, you love to see it. So now let's go take a look at what we got going on for the rest of December, see how the guys are holding up, and we actually play UNC Greensboro again. So I did not realize this when we were on the schedule. UNC Greensboro was a regular season opponent, and then we happened to run into them for the Anaheim Classic. If I would have known this, I would have probably opted to get somebody else, maybe a little bit closer. They got their get back though. The Spartans got the get back on us though. John Phillips had 10 points. Scott Smalls had 20. And then Ken Harris had 15. Had more bench production. It was an 8-man rotation on the day. But yeah, they absolutely got us there and handed us our second loss of the season. So that does mean that we do have a few more games that we can play. The first one of those games is that we actually do make a cross-country trip to go and play against Arizona State. And this Arizona State Suns Devils team, not as good as the team that we happened to go up against when we were taking on Iowa State. So I feel like we should be able to handle things. And listen, it did get a little dicey. Not gonna lie to you, it did get pretty dicey. But we still found a way to win at the end of the day. Your Indiana State Sycamores did end up winning 75-67. We do it by being efficient with the free ball. Shot 11 for 20 from deep. Got more assists. And yeah, feels good to get back to those winning ways. But for the other 2 games in the month of December, we took on the Citadel and then also took on this Austin Peay squad as well. And against the Citadel, we were able to handle things in that particular matchup. In the Citadel game, we were able to win 80-69, just playing that high tempo type of game. And again, we had some scoring from our, from our wings primarily. Chris Gentry had 12 with John Phillips struggling a little bit, but he did get to the free throw line and was efficient there. Alistair Varant was our leading scorer though. He had 20 points in this game, and that was big for us because Scott Small is usually someone that has that big time performance. He's been averaging close to 20 points a game, and yet he didn't play very well in this particular game at all. He actually kind of struggled through this particular game in question. So good to see that we were able to win even if Scott Small is not on his game. JoJo Thompson, man, came off the bench, played 22 minutes in the ball game. He ends up scoring 17 in this particular matchup, and he was just someone that was able to get to that free throw line. 8 for 10 from the free throw line. You absolutely love to see, that type of effort on any given day. Did not have just incredible play. He might be hurt, but other notable things, Ken Harris did end up with double digits assists, and he nearly had a double-double. He was 1 point shy of that. Also ended up seeing Chris Gentry with 15 rebounds. Alistair Varant had 10 rebounds, so he had a very comfortable double-double to go with things as well. And Chris Gentry led the team here with multiple steals. In the other game that we played, though, was back at our home court in Austin Peay. And at Austin Peay, we end up winning 68-49. Now, scoring was a little bit harder to come by in this particular matchup. We did see just incredible play a little bit more in this game. We had a few guys get into double digits. John Phillips had 17, and that was our leading scorer. Scott Smalls had 15 in this game, and then JoJo Thompson, once again coming off the bench, he ends up having 13 points in this game. So it's a good performance and a big performance considering Ken Harris did not play very much. He only played 14 minutes in this game. I want to chalk it up to, is that something to do with foul trouble? Did he end up getting like shaken up in the game? Didn't seem like only 3 fouls. He didn't seem to have gotten hurt all that much. So really curious to see what's going on with the injuries. But Chris Gentry and John Phillips, those two guys did have double-digit rebounds. Scott Smalls was our leading assist guy. Allison Varant, after having that 20-point outburst, he only had 9 points and he had 5 turnovers. So a little bit of a return to the norm, I guess, so to speak. Multiple guys, though, with multiple blocks and steals, though. Chris Durant had 5 blocks and a couple of steals. John Phillips had multiple blocks. Scott Smalls and Ken Harris both had multiple steals. And then Justin Credible, coming off the bench, had 3 blocks in this game. So the month of January is officially upon us, and as you can see, there's a lot more games that are going to be happening here in the month of January. And because of that, what we're probably going to do is we're going to play more games because we have so many more games that I definitely want to show you guys as well. So next episode, you'll see multiple games and we'll get through this month of January. It's been fun, a little series to get things going here so far, though. 10-2 going into conference play. You absolutely love to see that. We'll get things kicked off with an opener against Illinois State. See if we can get on the road and get it done. But I am excited as you guys are. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you go ahead and do a couple of things for me. Smack that like button and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off, but hoping you guys are out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.